When I started out, I had nothing, just a crazy idea and a burning desire to make it real. I used to tell everyone, friends, classmates, strangers, what I was planning, what I was dreaming, what I wanted to build. I thought they would be inspired. I thought they would support me. One of the hardest truths to accept in life is that not everyone around you wants to see you succeed. On the surface, many people appear supportive. They smile when you share your dreams. They nod when you speak about your plans. Some even offer advice, encouragement, or resources. But behind closed doors, the story can be different. In the shadows of your progress, jealousy, insecurity, and silent competition often grow. Sometimes it's the people closest to you, the ones you assumed would cheer the loudest, who secretly hope you fall short. It's not always out of hate. It's often out of fear. Your growth becomes a mirror, and they see what they haven't done. Your ambition becomes a threat, reminding them of their own excuses. So instead of lifting you up, they subtly hold you back. Maybe they make sarcastic jokes about your dreams. Maybe they flood your mind with doubt disguised as realistic advice. Or maybe they simply withdraw, leaving you feeling unsupported at the time you need belief the most. This is why you must be careful about who you open your heart to. When you share your story, your struggles, or your plans with people who don't truly want the best for you, you hand over ammunition they can use against you. Some will try to compete with you, not because they have vision, but because your vision threatens their comfort zone. Others will pretend to support you while secretly hoping you make mistakes, because your failure validates their lack of action. It's important to understand not all criticism is constructive. Not all advice is rooted in goodwill. Some feedback is just fear in disguise, someone trying to impose their own limits onto you. They couldn't do it, so they tell you it can't be done. They didn't try, so they'll say it's not worth the risk. And because it comes from familiar faces, maybe even people you love, you might be tempted to believe them. But their vision isn't yours. Their limits aren't yours. Just because they gave up doesn't mean you should. Just because they never believed in themselves doesn't mean you should stop believing in you. There's another side to this too. Some people do want you to win, but only to a point. As long as you stay one step below them, they clap for you. As long as your achievements don't outshine theirs, they encourage you. But the moment you start rising faster, gaining more, becoming more, the tone shifts. They may distance themselves, minimize your success, or even try to bring you back down, subtly, passively, quietly. And then there are those who just want access to your energy. They want to hear your ideas, absorb your passion, and feed off your drive, without ever offering anything in return. They're not there to help build your dream. They're there to drain it, piece by piece, with flattery and empty promises. This is why discretion matters. Not every room deserves to hear your story. Not every ear is safe for your dreams. When you're building something valuable, you have to treat it like Goldie, protect it, guard it, and only share it with those who've proven their loyalty and integrity. You wouldn't leave a treasure in a crowded hallway. So don't leave your vision in careless conversations. Learning this can be painful. You may outgrow relationships. You may realize that some of your supporters were only standing next to you to stay warm, not because they believed in your fire. You may have to distance yourself from people you once trusted. That's okay. Growth often comes with pruning. You don't need a crowd. You need alignment. One voice of genuine encouragement is worth more than 100 shallow compliments. One person who really wants you to win is more valuable than 1,000 who simply don't want you to do better than them. Every time you talk about what you're going to do, you spend energy. Every conversation about your future goals, every post explaining your next big idea, every debate about your vision, all of it uses up mental fuel. At first, it feels productive. You feel like you're getting things off your chest, like you're clarifying your plan, maybe even inspiring others. But in reality, too much talking often becomes a substitute for doing. There's a psychological effect that kicks in when you speak too often about your ambitions. Your brain starts to confuse the talking with the doing. You feel a sense of reward just by announcing your plans, even before you've taken a single step toward achieving them. It's a false high, a kind of emotional paycheck you get in advance, one that makes you comfortable, but leaves your progress empty. The more you talk, the more you dilute the urgency. You've already told people. They've already clapped. You've already felt the approval. So where's the pressure to follow through? Where's the hunger to prove it now? What started as a clear, burning mission begins to fade into a well-decorated intention. Execution, on the other hand, is where the real value lies. Execution requires effort, consistency, resilience. It doesn't reward you instantly, and it doesn't feed your ego in the beginning. In fact, it often feels lonely, quiet, thankless. While everyone else is talking, you're in the background building something invisible. While others are explaining their next steps, you're taking them in silence. And while they chase attention, you're chasing results. Energy is a limited resource. Every day gives you only so much focus, discipline, and clarity. Spend it wisely. Every hour you spend explaining your plans to people who can't help you is an hour stolen from execution. Every ounce of emotion you invest in convincing others to believe in you is energy that could be used to sharpen your skills, refine your strategy, or complete the next task. The dream doesn't get closer because you keep describing it. It gets closer because you act on it. You'll notice something about the people who really achieve things. They talk less. They're not loud about their progress. They're not quick to share their next move. They know that their energy is sacred and that most people are not qualified to advise or understand. They've learned that explaining too much invites distraction, judgment, and unnecessary noise. So they guard their focus. They choose their words carefully, and they pour most of their energy into action. There's also a trap in constant conversation. When you're always seeking feedback or validation, you become dependent on it. You start shaping your plans based on reactions instead of direction. You end up modifying your dreams to fit into other people's understanding instead of growing into something that reflects your true potential. Execution doesn't seek approval. It requires commitment. And often, that commitment has to be made in silence, in solitude, and without applause. It's not that you should never talk. There's value in planning, in clarifying, in sharing with the right people. But the balance must lean heavily toward doing. You don't need to narrate every chapter before it's written. You don't need to post every step before it's taken. Keep some things private. Let the work speak. Let the results surprise them. There's a kind of strength that comes from moving quietly. You're not waiting for permission. You're not defending your dream. You're simply working, growing, refining, and building. That kind of energy becomes unstoppable because it's not wasted on convincing, announcing, or defending. It's entirely invested in creating something real. Every great vision starts small. It begins as a quiet idea, a spark that flickers in your mind, unshaped, untested, and deeply personal. In those early moments, it's not strong, it's not fully formed, it's fragile. And because it's fragile, it's also vulnerable. The moment you expose it to the world too soon, it risks being misunderstood, criticized, or dismissed. That risk, if you're not ready, can break the very thing you were trying to build. When something is fragile, it needs protection, not promotion. A seed planted in shallow soil can't survive harsh winds. Your vision is that seed. It needs time, space, and quiet to grow roots. You don't have to justify it to others. You don't need to announce it to the world to make it real. In fact, the more you try to prove it to people who don't understand, the more you begin to question it yourself. External opinions in the early stages can be dangerous. Well-meaning friends might say, that's too risky. Family members might suggest you take a safer route. Strangers might laugh. Most of them are not trying to hurt you. but they are seeing your dream through the lens of their own fear, their own experiences, and their own limitations. And if you're still unsure, still forming the shape of what you want to do, their doubts can become your doubts. Their hesitation can become your hesitation. You start making adjustments not based on your truth, but on their comfort. That's why the early stage of any dream should be private. Not secret, but sacred. You're allowed to keep some things to yourself. You're allowed to work in silence, to experiment without explanation, to build something meaningful before letting others judge its worth. This is not weakness. This is wisdom. A fragile vision doesn't need noise. It needs nurturing. There's also something else that happens when you protect your vision. You allow it to become stronger. As you spend time with it, shaping it, testing it, refining it, it matures. It becomes clearer in your own mind. You begin to understand not just what you want to do, but why you want to do it. That clarity becomes your armor. That internal alignment becomes your shield. When the time finally comes to share your vision with others, you're not easily shaken because you've already lived with it long enough to believe in it deeply. Too often, people rush to share because they crave validation. They want someone to say, "That's a great idea." But if you rely on approval to keep moving forward, what happens when approval disappears? What happens when people don't see what you see? If your vision depends on applause, it's not strong enough yet. Protect it. Let it develop its own weight. Let it stand on its own legs before asking others to stand with you. In this world of constant exposure and instant updates, it can feel strange to work quietly. Everyone is posting their goals, their moves, their progress. But silence isn't inactivity. It's strategy. Just because no one sees it doesn't mean nothing's happening. Some of the most powerful work is done out of sight, behind closed doors, in rooms with no audience. Protecting your vision also protects your momentum. When you keep it close, you stay focused. You avoid distractions. You're not constantly explaining, defending, or adjusting your direction based on noise. You move with purpose, not performance. You stay rooted in your reason, not in other people's reactions. Think of a craftsman in a workshop, head down, tools in hand, chipping away at something no one else understands yet. That's what early vision work is. It's not glamorous. It's not loud. It's precise, personal, and often lonely. But it's during that time, in that quiet, that your vision gains depth, resilience, and direction. It's where it grows strong enough to one day face the world without needing to be protected anymore. In a world full of noise, where everyone seems to have something to prove, it's tempting to think that talking about what you plan to do somehow pushes you closer to achieving it. People announce their goals, explain their strategies, and describe their ambitions, often in great detail. But words are easy. Words don't build. Words don't move the needle. It's the results that matter. Because when the work is done right, it doesn't need a long introduction. You can tell people you're disciplined, or you can show them by what you've built. You can explain your plans for success, or you can let the results show how serious you are. The difference is everything. Words ask for attention. Results command respect. People may not believe your promises, but they will have a hard time arguing with your progress. There's a certain power in letting your actions speak. It builds credibility without you needing to advertise. When people see that you quietly kept showing up, putting in the effort, improving your skills, and delivering on your goals, they start to take you seriously. You don't have to convince them. You don't have to repeat yourself. They'll notice. Because results are undeniable. They cut through doubt, ego, and even resistance. While others are still talking about what they might do, you've already done it. Results also create a different kind of confidence, the kind that doesn't need constant external reassurance. When you focus on producing, not performing, you start to rely less on opinions and more on outcomes. You don't need approval because you have evidence. You don't need to sell yourself because your work already carries weight. That shift away from noise and toward substance, is what separates those who dream from those who deliver. The truth is, people forget what you say, but they remember what you did. Promises fade, but patterns stay. Anyone can say they'll work hard. Anyone can say they want to win. But who is waking up earlier, staying later, putting in the hours when no one is watching? That's what makes the difference. That's what builds trust. Not just in others' eyes, but in your own. You begin to prove to yourself that you're serious, that your effort is not just performance, but purpose. Sometimes, the more you talk, the less people listen, especially if the words aren't backed by progress. People get used to hearing big statements with little follow-through. It becomes background noise, but results cut through that. They reset the room. They shift the conversation from, "What are you going to do?" to, "How did you do that?" And when people start asking that question, you know your work is starting to speak for itself. Letting results lead also teaches patience. You stop chasing applause and start valuing impact. You realize it's better to quietly build something real than loudly promise something that never materializes. And when you finally reach the milestones you've been aiming for, you won't need to shout it from the rooftops. The growth, the improvement, the transformation, it'll be visible. It'll speak in your performance, in your consistency, in the way people treat you differently because they now understand the value of what you bring. And there's something else results silence doubt. Whether it's doubt from others or doubt from within. When the outcomes are there, when the progress is measurable, when the numbers, the skills, the wins are stacking up, it gets very hard for anyone, including yourself, to question whether you're on the right path. Even your quietest progress is louder than the most confident speech. Focusing on results also means choosing humility over hype. You stop trying to impress people with what you might do someday, and instead impress yourself with what you can actually accomplish. When you stop talking and start doing, you begin to understand that true power doesn't announce itself, it just delivers. Every time, quietly, consistently, without the need to explain. There is a quiet strength in keeping parts of your life to yourself. In a time where oversharing has become the norm and where social validation is often mistaken for progress, choosing privacy is not just rare, it's powerful. Privacy creates space to think clearly, to move strategically, and to grow without pressure. It protects your peace from unnecessary interference and guards your intentions from unwanted influence. When people don't know what you're doing, they can't judge it, attack it, or try to steer it. You keep your energy clean. You maintain control of your narrative. You're not constantly adjusting your moves to fit others' expectations or chasing the approval of people who don't understand your journey. You become more focused, more present, and more resilient because your attention isn't scattered across conversations, assumptions, or comparisons. It's locked into the work, into the goal, into the mission. Privacy also gives you the freedom to fail quietly. You don't have to worry about looking foolish because no one's watching every step. You can learn, adapt, make mistakes, and refine your strategy without public scrutiny. That kind of freedom is critical. Growth requires experimentation, and experimentation requires room to get things wrong. When every move is public, you feel pressure to be perfect. But when you protect your space, you give yourself permission to evolve honestly. There's also a level of security that comes with privacy. The fewer people who know your next move, the harder it is for anyone to interfere with it. Not everyone is rooting for you. Some smile to your face while secretly hoping you stumble. Others copy your every step and rush to get there first. When your plans are private, you take away their power. You protect your timeline, your vision, and your originality. You stop inviting people into places they have no business being. Your fears, your ambitions, your personal blueprint for success. Privacy allows you to live from intention, not impression. You're not performing for an audience. You're not crafting your life to be consumed. You're building it to be lived. You move based on what feels right to you, not what will generate attention or applause. And when you do that, your choices become clearer. Your priorities get sharper. Your energy flows where it should into execution, not explanation. There is power in mystery, not because you're hiding, but because you're choosing what to reveal when and to whom. You're in control of the spotlight. You decide when to speak and when to stay silent. That balance gives you leverage. It turns you into someone who can't be easily read or manipulated. When people can't predict your next step, they can't prepare for it. That unpredictability becomes a strength. They don't know if you're struggling or winning, retreating or advancing, and in that uncertainty, you gain an edge. Privacy isn't about isolation. It's about discernment. It's knowing the difference between what's sacred and what's public. It's choosing depth over display. Some things are better kept between you and your work, between you and your intuition, between you and the process that's shaping you. Not because others don't deserve to know, but because not everyone deserves to be involved. And when you do speak, when you finally show what you've built or share what you've overcome, it hits different. Because it's not noise, it's not hype, it's substance. It's the product of real effort, done away from the camera, away from the crowd. It holds weight because it wasn't rushed, it wasn't diluted, and it wasn't performed. It was built in silence, and it carries the power of everything you chose not to share along the way. Privacy teaches you that you don't have to prove anything to anyone if you're at peace with what you're building in the dark. In Coaxial USIO, a world that rewards exposure, it's easy to believe that telling your story to everyone is part of the journey. But real growth, real strength, and real success often happen in silence. Your vision, especially in its early stages, is delicate. It needs protection, not an audience. Not everyone who listens cares. Not everyone who smiles means well, and not everyone who hears your plans wants to see them succeed. Silence is not weakness, it's strategy. Your energy is limited, and every moment you spend explaining yourself is a moment taken from execution. Privacy gives you the space to fail, to learn, and to build without distraction or doubt. Let your results speak. Let your growth surprise them. When your foundation is strong, your story will be impossible to ignore. So be careful with your voice. Be selective with your circle. Guard your goals the way you would guard something priceless. Because that's what they are, priceless. You don't owe the world your story before it's ready. You owe yourself the discipline to write it well, the courage to protect it, and the focus to finish it before anyone else gets a word of it.